First thing they suggested was an abortion, and by that time I was already 7 months, and it was too late.
I don't put him down for it, because it's just as much my fault as it is his.
Just by having sex, it could ruin a good relationship if you're not ready for it.
I never really thought about being adopted until I came here. A close family relationship can either be pulled closer together or torn real far apart by something like this. I know I'm going to be a lot more cautious now.
Push him out! Push him out! Be the wall!
Mother. I was just sitting here thinking about the word mother. It has a good sound to it, one that produces good thoughts. So often when we think of the word mother, we think of only the best things. That is, until we put another word in front of it, such as unwed mother. Then we tend to think of only bad things. You see, we don't like to think about a baby being born into the world without ever knowing its real father.
Well, when I got pregnant and I told Jerry, it was just, to me, it was the most upsetting thing I'd ever happened, because I never dreamed it would happen.
I don't know, like, I've known Bobby a long, long time, and we were at one time going to get married like a couple of years ago, and I wasn't ready to settle down then. And like when I first found out and when I first told him, I wanted to get an abortion. Mike is not really, I guess in a way, I might have been able to get him to marry me if I'd wanted it that way. But I found out that some other girls, he had gotten a girl pregnant before me and everything, and he left.
In days past, some societies took unwed mothers out into the streets and publicly stoned them to sort of make an example of them for the younger children in the neighborhood. Of course, we in America are a bit more civilized in that we don't stone them anymore. We simply point an accusing finger at them. We turn our backs on them, reject them, make them feel like the outcasts that some of them undoubtedly will become. And of course, some of the girls can't take it. They seek an abortion to end the life of the unborn infant. Some of them will take their own lives. And then some will run away and hide, have their babies in obscurity, and live in misery for the rest of their lives. Still, there are others who will seek alternatives. This alternative, coming here and then perhaps putting the baby up for adoption, is that thought of last among the unwed mothers, or is it one of the things that first occurs to them?
In my opinion, when the girl first learns the pregnancy, she does not know what she'd like to do, and that's why the outreach program has been so necessary.
Our approach has been that so often these young ladies are not aware of the alternatives that are available to them in planning for themselves and for a baby born out of wedlock. And we like to give them the opportunity to come in for some counseling so that they may consider all of these alternatives and then come up with a plan that will work for them and be satisfactory for the little baby.
There's a great deal more acceptance on the part of church leadership, both lay and clergy, that people in crisis are people in need of help. And most crises are a way of saying, I do need help.
I have seen over the last couple of years a change, a real change, I think, in the fads involving sexuality. 12 months ago or 24 months ago, there were a great number of kids in whom early non-affectional sexuality was a part of their protest, a part of saying, I am me, and to hell with the mores, and to hell with the establishment. I don't see that anymore. A year or 2 years ago, to have some flip young 13-year-old swish around and say, so you want to ball some dude, what's that to you, you know? What's the big deal about it? I don't see that anymore. It seems to me there is a return toward at least relating sexuality to an affectional basis, to a relationship to another human being. They're struggling with this.
At a given time, there are between 70 and 130 young pregnant girls here. Of course, no one sticks out, if you'll pardon the pun, because they're all pregnant. Aside from the responsibility of giving birth to the child, the girls are often given other responsibilities. Those 18 years old and older live in apartments where they're responsible for their own kitchens. They're given budgets, and they go out and do their own shopping. And of course, they're expected to keep their own house. Those 17 years old and under live in dormitories with strict supervision, but still, they too can get out and learn. The girls meet with counselors in an effort to solve their own problems and not have somebody else work out their problems for them. You know, it's a big step for a girl to come to the Edna Gladney home, but it's an even bigger decision awaiting her after she gets here. Often you'll hear people around the home talking about that piece of paper or signing the paper.
And it's a very upsetting thing to sign papers. I mean, but here, I think the nurse, your caseworker's with you at the time, and the nurses. And the first time it was a lawyer, you know, a lawyer I never met. I had talked to over the telephone several times, but I'd never met, and it's a very depressing thing. This time I want to see the child, but I'm going to sign papers first because I don't want to have that change, you know, may change my mind.
In my case, I know, you know, when I decided to come here, before I even told my mother that I was pregnant, and I know in my mind that this is the best thing to do. I want to see my baby because the fact is, I mean, it's an act of love, I mean, and it's part of me, and naturally anybody is curious about, you know, what their baby's going to look like. And I have no doubts, though, that I won't sign the papers. I want to see my baby before I sign the papers so that I can be sure that, you know, of myself. But already I'm sure.
She understands what they are. She has a session with the attorney where the attorney tells her all her legal rights. So the girl has dealt with this in our setting until it's the day that she finally does it. It really is almost just a formal thing of completing something that she's been working and dealing with.
Explore the alternatives so thoroughly ahead of time. After all, you have 9 months of being pregnant, and that does give you a little time to think. And before you get to the time of making a decision, that you have looked so closely and so carefully at the alternatives that you know very well what you want to do.
Some of the girls here are very depressed and upset about signing papers. After it's all over with, they're very upset. But then, like a couple of weeks ago was the case, you know, like I was visiting one of the girls, and she was very happy. She saw her baby, and she signed the papers, and she said that, you know, it's a beautiful baby. It's going to be going to a good home. She says, I'm so happy that it's such a pretty baby, and that I know it's going to have a good chance. And she was very happy about it. She wasn't depressed. She was really glad that she was able to give what she thought was a beautiful baby, and that it would be going to a good home.
When my parents found out, and my parents understand how I feel, that I feel that I'm not ready for a marriage and for family, and they understand. Now, they would like nothing better than for me to come home and to have a baby. They want a grandbaby, and they would be close to it, and they would love it just as much as they could. But they know that until I'm ready, that it's not going to be that way, and they leave it up to me. Now, my parents will help me any way that they can, any way that I ask them to. They've always been willing to. And if I ever need their help, I always know they're there.
Well, I know that I know that my mother helped me the last time, and I know she'd probably help me this time. It's just that I'd hurt her once, because it does. It hurts. It hurts.
Twice.
It hurts your parents. I mean, it really does. And you know, she helped me, but I couldn't see hurting her twice.
Many parents today, I really feel, are very reluctant to become active in helping their daughters think through what she should do. Because I hear many of them say here, well, I want her to do what she thinks she could do.
Well, there are two things that parents can do. One is they can be arbitrary and say, this is the way it is, this is how it's going to be. Or they can say, and this also is a cop-out, well, it's up to you.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Now, this is not being a parent, either way. To say, all right, you're faced with a situation. Now, here are some possibilities. Have you considered this? Or have you considered this? If I were in your shoes, I would think very strongly of doing this or this. In other words, to go over, to be a parent, to offer support and shelter, to offer protection and understanding, and to help a girl feel free to reach a knowledgeable decision. It's a real cop-out to say, I want you to decide.
They don't really know what's happening to them, physiologically or otherwise. But during the few months that they are here at Edna Gladney, they learn, and they learn well. To me, there's something beautiful about 70 or 80 girls running around laughingly doing their chores. I look at them, their round, extended abdomens, and I think, I just can't think of bad thoughts, because I see life in the making. And when I see them, I don't stop to think about the father of this new life, because not knowing the father of this new life doesn't make it ugly.